welcome everybody to another Mindful Monday. We are all on a journey, and sometimes those journeys have challenges. However, you do not have to face it alone. And at Mindful Mondays, we believe that we can do more together, and we are here to support you holistically and without judgment. So, thank you for joining us today. Now, I would like to start, of course, by thanking our sponsors, Angie Giltner, Legal Shield, and White Sands Premier Travel for making this Mindful Monday episode possible. Are you a female founder or entrepreneur that's feeling stuck in the shadows? Well, our dynamic guest, Angie Giltner, is here to help you shine like a star. Angie has over 12 years of experience as a master business coach, empowering countless brilliant women entrepreneurs to stop blending in and start standing out, which I love. So, Angie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me on this show. This is such an honor and privilege.
Oh no, I love it. So it's like I love what you do, and I so love your energy and everything. So it just it's what we need. So can you tell us, how did you first get started on this journey? I mean, as a master business coach, and what inspired you to focus specifically on female founders?
Yeah, so I have always kind of sat in the training space. It's just, we all have our zones of genius, and that just happens to be one of mine. And I actually, much like many female founders, I created my business out of an adverse situation. But I've always loved entrepreneurship and was always looking. Even I graduated when I was 17, and I started selling jewelry because I needed extra money from my corporate job, and I just found, I have this knack, if you will, and really understanding people and whatnot. Started my business out of adversity in 4 days. That I don't recommend. That was a challenge, I will say, but I was determined. I was so determined that it was going to happen. That was over 12 years ago. And I made the decision. My master's degree is in organizational leadership. And I made the determination to become a certified master business coach to help female founders. First of all, I love my husband, don't want to work with him. Just need to say that.
Yep.
And because I've learned that first of all, men don't seem to take what I have to say seriously. And so that just wastes their time and money. Early days, I did have a few men as clients, and I did it for the money, much like we do when we're new entrepreneurs. I was chasing the money, and I was like, look, you want to pay me? Great, I'll take your money, without much discernment, at that
Mhm.
time. And just over the years, well, it didn't take me long, about 2 years, I learned that no, I want every female founder to be successful. And so I set out on this mission to do whatever it was that I could do so that female founders could be successful in whatever their definition of success is, and whatever space that they set in. And I've built my whole business on that premise.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up a couple of good points. So yeah, I love my fiance and stuff dearly. He's always very supportive, but we're not in the same space. And that, even when it comes like to racing or certain things, you can kind of tend to butt heads. But and your other good point that you brought up, that's what a lot of people do, and I see it over and over. People that are brand new in business, just starting business, thinking I can help everyone, anyone's my con. And it's like, I got news for you. Everyone is not your client. And as you've learned, it's not about the money anymore. When you take that out of the equation, it's about building relationships. But people get in that whole desperate mode or lack, and it's just like money, money, money. And it's like, doesn't work well as you found out.
No, and I was miserable. I mean, I didn't have that joy. I didn't have that spark when I was working. I dreaded those clients. Like when I would see them on my calendar, I'm like, ooh. I don't want to do this. Well, I don't have any of that anymore because I work with amazing women all over the world, and I have the privilege of being able to do that. And so it lights me up. A matter of fact, I have a coaching client immediately after this, and I'm excited about it. And it's an honor to be part of her journey, and I just love it. So I never have those icky moments anymore.
Well, I have to say, for one, I was excited about this because there's one thing you're not lacking is spark. So like you're just, yeah, you're just like the energy, this just energy that just comes out of you every time, and I love it. So, can you share maybe a pivotal moment in your career that made you realize the importance of helping women and breaking through that and the invisible barriers?
Yeah, so I was actually, I used to work in the nonprofit space, and I was supervising a group. I had developed a program for this nonprofit, and I was out doing the training, and the group was out doing the executing. And so the program had grown, and I was onboarding a new hire, and this young man was fresh out of college, and like I was too at one day, so it wasn't that at all. But what I found out was the executive director had offered this young man with no experience $3,000 a year more than what I was making. And I went into that CEO's office and I said, excuse me, like, I'm not okay with that. Now, I may not have been that nice. I will just be honest about that. And I may have dropped a few words that are probably not appropriate for this show. But nonetheless, the question was still the same. And he looked me dead square in the face and he said, "That's all you're worth." And that was pretty much, I left my job of 10 years. I'll just say that. And that was one of, and there have been a few other, I will say, hints of different things throughout my life, but that was the most blatant, where it was very clear that my 10 years, and at that point I had 18 years of experience in the industry, 10 with this company. And as a woman, I was not valued and was told that literally straight to my face.
Wow.
And so I've just been on a mission, and that's, as women, we've come a long way, but we still have a lot more to go. And like, even in networking, like, I talk with women every single day, and they show up to these networking events, and they just don't get anything out of them. And I'm like, because those spaces weren't created for you. They weren't created for, women to come in and be social and have that time. It was meant to be more like, here's a handshake, here's my business card, move on. Here's a handshake, here's a business card, move on. So these spaces weren't created for us. And so I've been on a mission to create those spaces and say no more. Like, and creating movements that will hopefully benefit the next generation of female founders, so they don't have to work as hard as I've had to work to create those spaces to speak out. I call them against the baddies. Speak out against those baddies who are keeping things status quo, and, well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, that sucks.
Plain and simple. There you go.
I mean, and it typically doesn't work for us. Now, are there a handful of women that will do well in those spaces? Absolutely. I personally am not one of them. And most of the women I meet aren't either. And so that's something that I'm just really, really big on is, just finding those opportunities to flip the status quo on its head. And you don't have to maybe be as loud or as bold as I am. There are many other ways that you can do that. And just saying, I've had enough, and I am worth more. Because I know a lot of times, I could go on a tangent about this, is women typically undercharge for their services, or they want to offer the friends and family discount because we have such big hearts and we want to help everybody. And I'm anti-discount. I think there are better ways that we can still earn our worth and yet give a heap of value to clients. And a whole, like I said, I could go on a tangent about this, but I just really want to change the way women do business and in a way that benefits the female founder.
Yeah, and I love it, and you're right because I'm in a lot of those networking groups too, and yeah, I can pull them off, but they're not as fun as and as comfortable. It's just kind of a thing. But I will tell you because I know you've created one, and there's a couple other ones out there. I'm actually starting to discover more and more men also that aren't about. We call it pitch slapping, and that's with a P, not a B, but pitch slapping people all the time because people are getting tired of it. You
Tired.
know, there's nothing about it. It's like, okay, you remember this, but it's we build relationships and it's about building those relationships, right? Because you do business with people that you know, like, and trust. How are
Yes.
you going to get to know, like, and trust somebody in 30 seconds of spitting something out and they want you to come work with them?
Yep. Exactly. And Laura, I'm sure this happens to you and many of your listeners as well. But you accept a connection request, and 3.2 seconds later, you have a sales pitch. I'm like, I barely know your name, and you want me to turn over my credit card? Like, what? So I actually created a little YouTube video, and it's called "Is Your DM a Desperation Move?" And I talk about, like, you pitch slap. Literally, I just accepted your. So that's my response whenever I get those pitch slaps because I'm sick
Mhm.
of it. I'm just sick of it.
I get them for people I'm not even connected to. And of course, having a show on YouTube, a lot of it's about my SEO, and I'm like, yeah, this is a television show. It's not that. I'm fine. But, they think they're doing, oh, I love the content. But then then they want to hit you with everything. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
sorry. There's nothing about that that makes me want to do business with you.
right. And they make so many assumptions about your business. They pitch you on something that it's like, how do you know that that's a challenge in my business? You literally have no idea. So you're making an assumption about my business. So automatically, right there, I don't trust you. That ticks that box. And that's out of the know, like, and trust. In my opinion, trust is the number one.
Yes. Yeah, you and I are the same with that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. They just come and it's like, yeah, okay. Or I'll see them and it's like, you haven't even requested to be friends yet. You're going to slam me with this message. It's just like block, delete. That's the lovely thing about social media, right? Block,
Right?
delete, and control it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what common challenges do you see female entrepreneurs facing, especially when they're trying to position themselves in the market?
Number one, hands down, by far, is client acquisition. That is definitely, and that's the space that I sit in. So I'm not surprised that it's the problem I see the most. But it truly is. And even like um, with a lot of my competitors, I will say competitors because there's more than enough to go around, and I just don't. I believe in collaboration over competition and just different things. But
Yep, you and
so
me
I
both.
use
I don't do
competitors.
SWOT analysis. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I'm uniquely me. It's that's it.
exactly. And, they will often say, even though they may sit in a little bit of a different space, they will still often say that client acquisition is just one of those things because there's an art and a science to it. And there's so much bad advice. Like they go to, I call it the free coach of Google. You get exactly what you pay for. And in AI they say act as my business coach and tell me how to acquire clients, and I'm like, oh, please don't follow because you're going to waste your time. Time is money, especially as a female founder. And then the frustration, like, how do you put a price on that? And just all the negative, it just, please don't do it. Don't do your business a favor and just don't rely on those plug and play. Your business isn't a cookie cutter. You are not a one size fits all. neither is your client, neither is your offer, and it shouldn't be treated as such. So, client acquisition doesn't have to be hard. I can't stand the coaches who'll say making 10K a month is easy, and it's like, okay, prove it, because if it were, why isn't every single coach out there making at least 10K a month? If it was so easy like you claim, then why aren't they doing it? Because they're full of crap. It's why.
What would you say is the number one worst advice you've ever seen given to them?
The number one worst advice is literally, do what I do. Do follow me, follow my step by step process or framework or roadmap or whatever it is, that whatever creative name they want to call it. Um, and does it work for you? Absolutely. Does it work for the masses? Absolutely not. you know, because they don't have your audience, they don't have your business, they're not you. I mean, there are
I think
some.
that's the biggest one right there is they're not me. They're not you. And if they don't know you, how can they tell you what's going to work for you?
Yep. Those, online courses that people, I mean, I see women spending tens of thousands of dollars to take these, make money in your sleep, because they're selling these online courses that, women step themselves through, and that type of thing. And there might be a handful of little nuts in there, but if you really look at the return on nugget investment, it's very high, because you pay $4.97 for and you get two nuggets out of it. That's not a very good return on investment.
No, and how many times are those nuggets that we're seeing are things that we already knew, we just didn't remember about them. And I've noticed that because I've done a number of coaching things and I love them. I've learned something from all of them. But if you dig down to it, it's stuff I kind of knew already. It just wasn't at the surface, right?
Sure. Yep. And friendly reminders are great, and that type of thing, but it hurts my heart to see women wasting their hard-earned money that they worked really, really hard to get, because they've struggled with client acquisition. And the other piece of bad advice is, and I've seen coaches do it, and I've had them do this to me as a sales tactic, max out every single credit card you have to work with me. And it's like, that's terrible advice. Like,
Oh, and it's even worse when they make you feel guilty if you don't, because oh my God, you're not investing in yourself.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Then they're done that, but they're not there when it puts you in the world of you know what when you're done.
Yes. And that to me is just so, because you literally could be taking, a child's meal away from them or something. And that just feels so gross and icky. So my best advice for that is to have three offers and have a low, a medium, and a high. And have a low hanging fruit where, like, my lowest one is $100. And for sometimes, and I've had these moments early days in my business where scraping together $100, I was like digging out change from my couch and then my glove console and stuff, and but that's something that's at least manageable and is not going to make someone go bankrupt, all the way up to almost $8,000.
Right.
And so have those offers so that you can serve the people you want to serve, without giving a discount, um, and and not make it so financially straining on them.
Yeah, good. Because that's not what you got in business for.
Right?
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you did, you're in business for the wrong reason.
And in the wrong business. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
What
know
you
huh? Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I was just going to say, no, obviously you didn't go into business to be broke. We don't want that. But, taking advantage of people who really don't have the money to work with you or to have that high ticket, you know, um, is just not a good business practice. And you're not going to keep them for long. They will be a lifetime customer by selling to them that way.
Yeah. And Angie, I know you and I have talked about this before because a lot of women founders or entrepreneurs have a habit of kind of playing small. And I really want you to be able to define that for us and tell people some of what the signs are so that they realize that they're playing small in their business. But we're going to take a break from our word from our sponsors and we'll be right back. And I know you have a great answer for that. So we'll see you back soon.
We got soul, oh yeah, we got soul.
I used to say we need a lawyer in the family. Having Legal Shield is better.
For less than $1 a day, you get access to vetted lawyers.
Want to create your will? Call Legal Shield. Got personal contracts to review? Call Legal Shield.
Do you need a vetted law firm to write a letter? Call Legal Shield. Warranty questions? Call Legal Shield.
For less than $1 a day, it's a no-brainer. Shield yourself from costly legal expenses. Call Legal Shield today.
Hello, Angie Giltner here, coming to you all the way from tropical Ohio in the United States. All I do is help female founders fix their biggest headache, and that's client acquisition. With a customized framework that makes you a client magnet and impossible to ignore, just like that glitter all over your desk, I cannot wait to watch your revenue grow. Bye-bye.
I so love that. So, Angie, maybe you can tell us how do you define playing small to start?
So I'm going to give you a little scenario. So here's what I see happen all the time. You're engaging in a sales conversation with someone, often masked as a discovery call. And here's what happens. Working with me in my 12-week signature program costs $3,999. And then they look at the person, their prospect, who they're having a conversation with, and the moment they're silent, they go, but I can give you the friends and family discount. And it's like, whoo. So right then and there, that's playing small. You haven't even given them time to process, but they get nervous in that silence and they anticipate that the objection is going to be, it costs too much. When really, they just might need a few seconds to process. So it can be uncomfortable to sit in the silence, but that's okay. And then if the silence does get too long, instead of saying, but I'll give you the friends and family discount, say things like, what questions can I answer for you? And then it just continues on the conversation. And so that you're not playing small and you're not leaving money on the table. The other thing that it looks like is, I'm going to do my low hanging fruit. I want to do it for free. And it's like, I prefer the words complimentary or no charge, because free to me just speaks garage sale, right? Like it's, somebody else's something that they don't want, so they're giving it away. Where if you say complimentary or no charge, the implication is I could be charging you for this, but I'm choosing to gift this to you at this time. And so, or having your introductory offer, like mine is $100. I don't recommend going any less than that. Your time, your intellectual property, your zone of genius is worth more. I see this number all the time, $7. $7 is my introductory. And it's like, okay. I get it. That's a no-brainer price point, but so is $100. So pick, as a female founder, would you rather have the revenue from $7 or the revenue from $100? You know, um, and then whenever it comes to pricing out their thing, they just automatically assume that price is going to be a factor. That's playing very small. They get nervous to put themselves out there. Like I love to be I call it them being podcast virgins. I love to have podcast virgins on my show. And it's like, "Oh, I've never been on a podcast before." Because they get nervous about putting themselves out there, and I'm like, "Nope, come on. Come on. Let's get you out there. Let's get you showcased. I want you, let's show the world how you can shine." And so it's there, it plays itself out in so many different ways. And for some women, like getting on stage and speaking on a podcast is never going to be comfortable for them, for a myriad of reasons. And not everyone is, I will say, an extreme extrovert like me. There are, the other ends of the spectrum. But there are things that you can do even as an introvert that I call them those butt pucker moments. They still make your butt pucker. And when you're having those butt pucker moments, that's when you're growing. And so I encourage women to do things that make them feel uncomfortable, because staying comfortable is playing small. That's what playing small can look like, another explanation or example of that. And I mean, I could just go on, and I just see it all the time. And a lot of times it's because we all have a mean girl living in our head. And it could be someone else's voice, or it could be our own. I know my mean girl is my own voice, and I'm just like, I have to just tell her, "This sassy pants, I ain't got time for you today. You need to move along." you know? um, but that mean girl can show up and say, imposter syndrome starts to creep in, and then we start to literally like shrink inside of ourselves and say, or I just wrote a book, but I don't want to launch it to the world yet. And it's like,
What to
why?
write it for?
Like, what'd you write? Yeah, why? But they're so nervous, and they fear rejection and that type of thing. Rejection never feels good, but it's a part of life. I mean, that's part of business. Um, and so even if your butt puckers during rejection, it's okay. You're learning who's not your audience, and that's good information.
Yeah, part of that, what you were mentioning, is like, for me, it was like more like perfectionism. Worried you don't ever get started because you're worried about everything being perfect, right?
Yes, another
And
one.
once you ditch that, oh my God, things get so much easier.
Yes. I remember I was in my mid 30s, and I had this conversation with my best friend who's about my age, and one of the greatest gifts I've ever given myself as a woman, not as an entrepreneur, but as a woman, was letting go of what other people thought of me. It was a freeing gift. It was just like, I am who I am, and I was created to be me and nobody else. And I'm not going to be for everyone. You know what? And that's okay.
Yeah. And the other thing is to not take it personally, right?
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now you have what you call a battle tested framework. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah. So when it comes to client acquisition, having that sales funnel is key. And so I have a battle tested sales funnel framework that I customize with my clients. Because remember, we talked about that customization. That is ticket. That is the key. But there are certain things when it comes to a sales funnel that are they're just things you have to do. You've got to make data driven decisions. And so there's just certain things when it comes to crafting a sales funnel that, even if you like, data's not, well, believe me, that is not my favorite thing to do, but it's critical that I understand that, because that's when we can make our best decisions. And so yes, I've just perfected this over the last almost 13 years. And the one piece that I really sell myself out of a job in a way is I teach my clients how to replicate it time and time and time again with their next new offer, or perhaps they're diversifying their revenue and they're adding, an e-commerce store to their coaching business, or they've written a book, and it's like, okay, look, the steps to do to customize it for yourself for this new offer. And so that's one of the beauties that really works with this battle tested framework.
I don't see you putting yourself out of a job, because you are very unique, and they can't duplicate you. They might be able to duplicate your framework, but not you.
Yeah, I do have a 93% return retention rate. So
I
I,
have no doubt. I have no doubt. What are some of the key elements that you think has proven most transformative for your clients?
Um, I will say is mostly their belief in themselves. That is probably the one of the biggest things. It's because there's so much to learn. We can't know it all. So as a coach, I always have a coach, because for one, I think it's hypocritical. It's like, I want you to value coaching, but I don't value coaching. Like, to me, that just seems so wrong. But I'm always learning, growing, and trying to get better and gain more knowledge, and that type of thing, that I then in turn pass along to my clients. But a lot of times when women come into my program, they really have a lot of self-doubt, like, do I even have what it takes to finish this 12-week program? Do I have the gusto and the grit? And, yes, I signed up for this, but do I trust myself enough to get through it? And at the end, when they do, and they look how far they've come, and they look at the final product that they've created, I mean, they're most of the time we end up having a good cry, but they're the happiest tears you could ever imagine, because it's like, I did this. And I'm like, you did this. Yes. I mean, yes, I was there to catch you. I was your soft place to land. Yes, I guided you through some of the more challenging aspects, but you gain that clarity, and clarity equals confidence. So that's another big piece, is just when you gain that clarity about what's going on in your business, and with your business, it just, I hate to use the cliche game changer, but it really does, turn the wheel and make things so much better. And I just love to watch women be able to sit in that space and feel so proud of what they've accomplished, and then love their business to where it's a joy for them to show up to their business each and every day.
Yeah, and it should be. But I think that's why we wind up with so many words in the English dictionary too, is because people keep saying, "Oh, this is cliche. We need a new term," and we come up with a new term.
Right,
But
exactly.
it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what strategies do you recommend for building the authentic influence while maintaining being true to to your own values?
Yeah. So just knowing when to walk away, that is probably one of the biggest things. You might not even understand why, like, you're having a conversation with someone, and something just doesn't feel right, and you can't put your finger on it. You can't really identify it. Run. Like, say,
Learn to say no.
learn to say no, because there's something there. And it's typically a values misalignment, typically, not always, because some people are just jerks with a capital J, and, we don't want to be around them anyways. But it's typically some type of values misalignment. and you just can't quite put your finger on it, but something just says, there's something about this person that rubs me the wrong way or doesn't feel right, or maybe I don't even like them. I mean, I've thought that in my brain before when I've been like meeting someone and going, I don't like her. Of course I treat her with kindness and respect, but at the end of the day, am I having a second call? Nope. you know.
I know some people that set up specifically 15-minute discovery calls. That way it's like, okay, if it's going well and you really connect good, you can keep going for a half hour or so. If not, oh, sorry, our time's up. Done.
That,
Move on.
yep. I would be one of those. But you have to stay true to yourself, and like I get asked to speak on a lot of stages, both in person and virtual, and I turn down a lot of them because they'll say things like, well, to cover our expenses, I just got this one, it's $3,995, and I'm like, what, huh? I have to pay to speak on your stage? Like, I know, I don't think that will happen. But yet I look at this platform and I see all of the speakers who paid to be on their stage. And I'm like, to me, that just, it's a values misalignment. It's not authentic to me. I think it devalues my intellectual property and what I bring to the table, and that type of thing. So honestly, I would rather do it at no charge than to have to pay.
Mhm.
But anytime something doesn't feel right, just trust that gut, because there's something there that is bumping up against your authenticity. And then whenever you connect, like I met a woman today, and our time was up. Neither one of us could keep going longer. I jumped on her calendar to schedule more time, and I ended it by saying, she lives in Iowa and I live in Ohio. And I said, man, if we live close, I said, I think we just became best friends. And she said, I think so too, because there was just so much alignment there. There was just so much. And we just connected, on a real personal level. And it was just so natural. And like Laura, when you and I met, to me, the conversation just flows. It's so natural because it's authentic and it's real, and it's not jaded by, what can you do for me, or what can I get out of you, or, anything like that. It's based on mutual trust. It's based on mutual benefits. I mean, all the good things. So there's just, it really just comes down to being true to who you are. I have fired coaches whenever they have said different things to me, and I'm just like, that goes against everything I stand for. And they still stand behind whatever they just said. And I'm like, you're fired, because I will never do that, because it goes against my integrity, or it goes against my authenticity, or, something like that. And it's when you show up as yourself that you really make the impact, that you really can influence your particular audience. They're going to be connected and drawn to you like a moth to a flame.
Yep, 100%. That's normally why that's one of some of the advice I give to people, because I've made those mistakes. You want role models, you want mentors, because you don't want to figure it out from ground zero, and that's great. But you can get lost in following them and like repeating them and duplicating them, but it's not who you are.
Yep.
And you start to lose who you are when you do that.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the reasons why you and I had kicked it off so well, is because you and I were very, very much aligned and have a lot of the same beliefs. And I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
it's like, oh yeah, I've been there. I was like, I'd probably be a good client for you on some of those points. But so in your experience, how can you female founders attract premium clients who truly value their expertise, would you say?
For one, be authentic. Don't try to fit the mold of who you think your avatar or your prospects want you to be. Be you. And there's really bad advice out there that says whenever you're creating a business is you identify your avatar first. No. I'm going to tell you a quick little formula, a little nugget you can take away and use immediately. And even if you've done this, anything future, you can implement this immediately. Identify the problem you want to solve, because that problem that you want to solve guaranteed sits in your zone of genius. It's something that lights you up. It's something that you're passionate about, that type of thing. And it's going to help make your showing up to your business much more enjoyable. And then go out and see who is looking for the solutions that you offer. Then I start to identify who your avatar is. And most of the time they get it wrong. It's like, well, this is my avatar. Now I'm going to go out and find out what their pain points are, find out what problems they have, and then I'm going to solve them. And that's what makes it so hard, because you're trying to fit into a mold that's not you. What's your offer? What solution lights you up? What feels so natural to you to just talk about, that you truly can just have a free-flowing conversation about whatever topic it is, or whatever, solution that you have, and then go out and find who is looking for that solution. And chances are high, it's not going to be the audience that you originally thought it was going to be.
So I'm curious of what your thoughts are on when coaches tell you to just, you don't have to create the program, just sell the program, figure it out, and do it.
So there is a lot, like, I have done that more times than I can count. I am not going to lie about that. I have done that more times than I can count. Now, it is not for someone, I will say it's not for someone who's a new entrepreneur, because it gives, talk about some major butt pucker moments. Butt pucker moments are great, but when they keep you up at night, they're not great. Okay. It's just like, too much of anything.
There's a fine line.
There's a fine line there. Too much of anything isn't good. So, if you're a new entrepreneur, get really comfortable, in the solution that you offer, and having those conversations with the people who are out there looking for that solution that you offer. And that will help boost your confidence as a new entrepreneur. So I created $100 4 weeks customized sales funnel solution. And I sold a ton of them before I had ever even created the program. But I pretty much had the program. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a space I've sat in for, over a decade and stuff. But I did have to make some adjustments and update a few things and, do some things. But it's just, sales funnels is one of those things I could talk about from day in, day out. I can offer all kinds of custom advice about that. And so it was a real simple thing, but, I was kind of getting bored with my previous entry offer, and the low hanging fruit, as it's often called. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to create something that's fun and, brings me joy, and it benefits my clients. So, so I think it really depends on the entrepreneur, because it's not for the faint of heart.
No, and it's also back to the one size fits none, right? You can't expect everybody to be able to fit that.
Yes.
Now, we all know when you're scaling a business, it can be overwhelming. So what customized systems do you suggest that would help women to scale without risking burnout?
Automate and delegate, automate and delegate, automate and delegate.
Sorry, what was that again?
Yeah. Automate literally anything that you can. If you're not sure how to do it, there are so many amazing VAs out there who would be more than glad to help you with that. And then delegate. You cannot scale alone. You just can't. There's not enough hours in the day, and it is not worth your burnout to get to that point. A lot of coaches will say, oh, just create an online program and make money while you sleep and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, here we are back to the cookie cutter thing, you know. And it's like when you get to the point of scaling, you know, like when I scaled, I went from only offering one-on-one coaching to group. I now have a group component to that. That is a small, you know, they're small, intimate groups. And I have different cohorts, if you will, to keep them small, to keep them intimate, to keep those relationships tight, you know, that type of thing. Yes, and this goes against conventional. They say, "Oh, you're exchanging time for money," and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, that's how I choose to service my clients because they deserve. They're paying for me, so I need to be there, and they're paying for my expertise. They're paying me to help them not make mistakes and to speed things up and not waste time and all the things. So I need to be there, but I have scaled very nicely by now I have a networking group. You know, I scaled by adding a networking group that I run. And so there's different things that you can do, but you got to do what feels natural to you. Someone said, you know, I would love it if you did a once a month mastermind. And I said, I don't have the capacity. I don't have, she's like, you could command a premium price. And I said, I understand that. I don't have the capacity, you know. And so knowing when to say no, because that burnout is so real, so real.
Yeah, because otherwise you stretch yourself too thin and then you're not any good for your clients or yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, a lot of times you talk about combining strategy with a rebellious edge. Can you share an example of how that approach has led to success for one of your clients?
Yeah. So I'll share a story about, so a woman, um, she's like a mindfulness coach. She really sits in that mindfulness space. And she has just gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about who she wants to serve, how she wants to serve, the problems she solves, and all that kind of thing. And I said, look, I'm going to challenge you to find an area that is not being addressed by any other mindfulness coach that sits in your space. And so she actually came up with something that has to do with sleep. And there's certain things that just happens to our bodies naturally prior to sleep and that type of thing. And so, you know, so she's sitting in this space and she's had some people make some comments like, you mean you're going to teach me how to, you're going to, not me, but people how to sleep? And it's like, oh, so it's interesting. So she's already getting recognized for standing out and doing something different than what other, and there are sleep coaches and stuff out there, but I did a lot of market research trying to see if there was anyone who sat quite in her space. I've yet to find them. I have worked with women who who are over in the like the Europe and over in Europe, easy for me to say, and they and all she does is teach women about their female anatomy and how to achieve significant pleasure, whether you're alone or with a partner, and, you know, just sitting in those spaces and not being afraid to show up and sit in a space that no one else is occupying. And that's where the rebelness comes in. As a mindful coach, I mean, you every turn around and you can bump into a mindfulness coach, right? Like they're everywhere. But it takes that rebellious edge to go out and find something that no one else is doing. And sit in that space, and that's where the little rebelliousness comes in.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've ran across a couple of them. It's like, you go, girl, because I'm glad you can do that. That's not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, mine either. Maybe was, though.
There's only one way to do that, right? Get uncomfortable. Angie, we got about 4 minutes left. So, what advice would you give to women who are hesitant to step out of their comfort zones and embrace their full potential in business?
Yeah, so the best advice that I can give you is to don't do it alone. That's one of the biggest mistakes, and I've made it. And believe me, my first year in business, oh, I thought I knew everything. After all, I started my business in 4 days. Don't recommend that. Mistake number one of a gazillion. And then my first year, I thought I could do it alone, right? Like, because I was smart, I have 4 college degrees, I have all this experience. Oh, I had $2.84 in my bank account because I went at it alone. And then I got smart and I invested in coaching. And I haven't looked back from that since, because ever since I've invested in coaching and continue to invest in coaching, for one, I never feel alone. For two, I am constantly growing and evolving. I have a lot of confidence, but it's the clarity. Like, I'm gaining so much more clarity. I've been in business almost 13 years and I'm still learning things about my business, and things change over time and things can get stagnant. And that's where the space that I'm sitting in now is I did a complete rebrand, because my brand for me was getting boring. It was getting stagnant. I needed to shake things up a little bit, and that's unnerving when for so long my brand was me. People knew me as the girl with the purple hair, and now I'm stepping out into this other brand, this Fematisse brand, and stuff. So anyhow, you just have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. But that's where the magic happens, and you don't have to go it alone. Find a coach who resonates with you, who you feel aligned with, that you trust, that you can have the really honest and hard conversations with. And I'm not kidding. You just won't regret it.
No. I just want to say thank you so much, because I knew this was going to be fantastic because of your energy. It can't be anything but such nuggets and stuff that you shared with everybody. But before we go, because we got a couple minutes left, you do have your podcast, right?
Yes. Yes, my podcast is called The Girl with the Purple Hair Talks Business, and Laura has been a guest, and I don't think her episode is live, or is it live yet? I can't remember. Oh, I'm embarrassed. I don't remember. But check out the podcast. There's so many more nuggets, and you're going to be learning from amazing women just like Laura from all over the world.
Yep. Yeah. Like I said, I absolutely love your energy, love what you're doing. And obviously, if you are a female entrepreneur or founder and you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, overlooked, and you want to shine like a star, here you have it. Angie Giltner, she can definitely help you. Angie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It has been an honor and a privilege, and audience, thank you for showing up and spending some time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for making it such a mindful Monday and kicking off the week for everybody. Greatly appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful week. We will see you next time. Be sure to follow us, like, and subscribe. I do have a YouTube channel as well. I know a lot of them are watching on E360 TV, but and if there's a certain topic that you want to connect with somebody, that's what we're here for. So reach out, message me, let me know, and we'll see what we can do for you. Have a great week.
Awesome.